What are your library memories? We moved around the country quite a lot when I was younger, so I can actually remember specific libraries and tie it to a particular moment in time because that's when we were living in that area. From ages 9 to 11, I was living in Lexden in Colchester. Lexden was just by Prettygate, and Prettygate had a library, and we used to go there once every week. And the children's section was upstairs, and the younger children's books were at the front, and gradually the rows as you went backwards got older until the end of primary age, so age 11ish. I remember it being summer and I must have been 10 or 11, and I was on the very last row, crouching down at the back. And then suddenly I hear this little cough behind me, and it was the boy from a family who we were very close to, who also lived in Lexden at the time. And I remember thinking, oh, thank goodness I'm at the very end row, otherwise he might have thought that I was reading babyish books, which, oh, couldn't have that. And obviously at Prettygate Library, because there were different books coming in and out all the time, you just had to see each week if there were books that you wanted coming back in. So there was Usborne's Solve It Yourself Puzzle Adventures that I absolutely loved, and it was always exciting when one of the ones that you hadn't read yet came back into the library and you nabbed it. I remember finding at that library The Steps Up the Chimney, which was the first of the Magician's House quartet. I think Prettygate Library is where I first found Under Sea, Under Stone, The Dark is Rising and Greenwich, which are the first three books in the Dark is Rising sequence by Susan Cooper, which was another pivotal book for me in how I came to love fantasy. So during that time we did mainly go to Prettygate Library, but sometimes we went into central Colchester to the big library. Then from age 12 to 16, Lowestoft Library was my library, and I found so many great books in there. When I began at that library when I was 12, I was just on the very older edge of the children's, but they labelled their older children's YA, which is now considered more teens, whereas they had their YA section in the children's section, and then upstairs they had their teen section, which was older books. So in my time there, I started off downstairs, and then as I got older I went up to the teen ones. But in the YA children's ones, so for about 12 years old, that is where I found Tamora Pierce. So the Song of the Lioness quartet. The first one was Alana, The First Adventure. And oh boy, was that a big book for me, especially in my love of fantasy. If you've never heard of that before, there are twins who swap places even though one's a boy and one's a girl. And the boy is meant to be going off to become a knight, and the girl is meant to be going off to learn magic. But the boy is the one who wants to learn magic, and the girl is the one who wants to become a knight. And girls aren't allowed to become knights. So the girl, Alana, disguises herself as her brother and takes his place, and I just loved it. And there was a sort of sequel series called Protector of the Small, but with different characters a little bit in the future. And now as an adult, I actually prefer that series because I think it's more nuanced. But I'll always hold a very fond place in my heart for Alana and the Song of the Lioness quartet. And my third library memory is actually from earlier than that. We were visiting my grandparents. I must have been somewhere between 7 and 9. And this has nothing to do with books, but I was absolutely obsessed with the Power Rangers at the time, especially the Green Power Ranger, Tommy. And because this library and my grandparents lived within the ring of the M25, so in the Greater London area, I thought it's far more likely for me to randomly bump into one of the cast of Power Rangers here in Greater London than where we were visiting from. So I remember hanging my thumbs in the belt hoops of my jeans and tried to stand there looking cool just in case one of the Power Rangers walked in to Staines Library. Although actually I think it's probably Ashford Library. I really wanted to meet the Power Rangers back then, Tommy especially. Why on earth I thought that American teenagers in the cast of Power Rangers would suddenly appear in Ashford or Staines Library is beyond me, but I've never been the most realistic person in the universe. So what are your library memories? Do you remember finding any special books in libraries? But what memories do you have of libraries, whether those memories are related to books or not?